Hey there, I'm Lindsay Dreyer, the Joyfulpreneur. Welcome to the Work-Life Juggle, the podcast for working moms where we talk about relationships, running a business, parenting, and self-care. Let's live your best life, ladies, and make some space for joy. Hey, Andréa.
Hi.
All right, so we are talking social media mindfulness today, but we're going to kick it off with a fun story about how you met your significant other.
I know, on social media. It's so funny because this was 2013 and dating apps were just becoming a thing, but it was still a little, like people were still hesitant to use them. And so I was on YouTubing at the time, posting random things about my life. My husband was doing like these rant comedy videos. Anyways, we collaborated just like we're doing on this podcast.
Yeah.
And then we kept talking after. He lived in Toronto, Canada. I lived in Atlanta, Georgia. So not even close.
Ooh, an international love affair. Ooh.
Yes. And I would comment the most ridiculous things on his YouTube videos. Like, I like your eyes. Oh my gosh. I was like so into him. So then we met up for our first date and we got married like within 6 months. 9 months of meeting each other. And it was just a whirlwind thing. And it all happened because we were watching each other's videos on YouTube. And I felt this personal connection to him because I could see him in the videos. Then we were Skyping after that. And it, to me, is a great example of the power of social media. And even today, some of my best friends I met through social media. My business besties we met on Instagram. Like, it's really embedded into my life.
That's so awesome. So I think like we talk a lot about like, let's bring the social back into social media. So how do you recommend people get social on social media?
Yeah. I mean, can I ask you, like, how do you feel about social media? Do you have like negative or mixed
That's a good
feelings?
question. I don't. I actually think it's really fun. Like, I only do it if I think it's fun and enjoyable. And if it starts to not feel fun and enjoyable, then I take a break or shift what I'm posting but I'm the joyfulpreneur. I like believe in just doing things that are joyful. So that's how I approach everything in life and my business.
Yes. And so see, that I think is where sometimes we forget to apply that to social media because it feels like we're dragged by the algorithm, right? Or even like the notifications. Instagram does this thing where it'll give you a fake notification, like 90% of people are interacting with this post. And then you like log in again and suddenly you're scrolling again. You're like, why am I here?
Right.
It's because we're being dragged by the apps. And so sometimes social media mindfulness, the first step is to just figure out what the boundaries are. Like, how do I want to feel when I'm on these apps? How do I want to show up as a business owner? How do I want to show up as a mom? How do I want to show up as a friend? Really thinking about how you want to interact and use the apps and being okay with this is how I feel today. It may change tomorrow, you know? And I think that first step is so important to kind of have that joyful approach to social media. And then from there, go ahead.
No. I was going to say it should be fun. Like, you should like doing it. I just think like a lot of people are like, oh, I hate it. I don't want to do it. So like one of the boundaries is just respecting your own enjoyment boundary, which is, do you even like this? Is this even something you want to be a part of your marketing plan or your business plan? Because there's other ways to generate business.
Yeah. Social media is one tool in your marketing toolbox. I love it. Obviously, I'm a social media fangirl over here. However, it's not for everybody. And there's so many people I know who use PR instead. They use in-person networking. They use all sorts of tools to build their business, paid advertising. Like, there's so many things you can do. I like social media because I like the community building aspect of it. And I get to meet like super fun, cool people that I would have never met before. Globally, internationally, around worldwide. I'm Mr. Worldwide.
Yes.
Just meeting all the people.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I think boundaries is definitely a topic like we can dive into pretty deeply. So let's talk about boundaries. Like, what boundaries do you recommend thinking about putting in place when you're dealing with social media?
Yeah. So the first boundary is about these notifications. Okay. So I am a notification free. Even though I manage all of my clients' accounts, I manage my own accounts, I'm everywhere, I love it. I had a panic attack, loosely described panic attack in 2017. I'd been in business at that point for about 4 years. The thought of an email coming in, the thought of a Facebook notification, I would not even open my phone, because even the notification itself, I was like, I feel that heavy weight of responsibility to respond to someone. And it was just the thought of responding that put me in this tailspin, and I could not deal with it. So I turned off all of my notifications, everything, text messages, calls. My phone is a brick now. Okay. So I started there. And then I started adding back in the ones that felt important to me. So today I have my email. I said email. I do not have email. I have Slack for my team. And then I have texts and phone calls, and that's it. And even then, sometimes I'll put my phone in sleep mode, because I'm like, only my husband's text can come through at that point. And that for me helps me. Now, the other thing I noticed is I still check almost obsessively while I'm working. And if I feel led to, I will spend a lot of time on Instagram. But what I also noticed is that the moments where I can be really present, especially now that I have a daughter, I don't think about it, because I'm allowing myself to be in the moment and not get distracted by my phone going off. And that was a huge shift to me in my perception of marketing and social media, and even just my personal needs and demands of the people around me. There was almost no emergencies that happened. And even if there was an emergency, people could reach me, call me, text me. The people most important to me can reach me. Someone sending me an Instagram DM trying to pitch their podcast, that can wait until Monday. I'm taking the weekend off. Thank you very much. And so notifications is a really big one that I strongly encourage people to analyze.
I completely agree with you. And sometimes it's so subconscious, our use of it. I like to change where my icons are on my phone occasionally.
Ooh.
And what I realize is that I have this muscle memory of where my social media apps live on my phone. And so a little hack I do to really make myself realize how addicted I am to social media is to change where the icon is located on my phone. And it is wild. I try to do it every month, and it really actually brings to the forefront that you're just mindlessly scrolling.
Yeah. And you know what? The apps have whole teams of people working on the algorithm to keep us there and to get us coming back. So if you are in that spot too, we all are, just don't feel bad for yourself. It's not you. It's the big guy, Mr. Algorithm over there, trying to draw us back in again. But then also just recognizing, oh, that's what's happening. But there's certain times where I totally ignore this. I'm like this with TikTok right now. Oh, that algorithm loves me so much. But TikTok will actually give you a notification that's hey, you've been scrolling for a while. Do you want to take a break? I'm like, no, we're going to keep going. But just recognizing that I'm doing that, and it's bringing me intense amounts of joy because I get to discover new pieces of content. I'm okay because I can almost step outside of myself and look and go, oh, that's what's happening, and I'm okay with it.
That leads me to ask you and wonder, we definitely use social media as business owners for business purposes, but then for personal purposes. So talking about boundaries or just how to delineate the two, do you have any strategies or tips that you recommend from your personal usage and your business usage? Because oftentimes we're using the same account.
Yes. Yeah. So if you use the same account, I have spaces that are for business and spaces that are personal, physical spaces. So when I'm in my office, if I check my phone, I'm in business mode. So I'm usually checking from a business perspective. And then when I'm out and about, I am in my real life, everyday Drea mode. And so I'm usually checking for personal things. I do oftentimes have accounts a little bit more separated. My Instagram account tends to be more business related, whereas Facebook and TikTok tend to be more personal for me. Facebook's the most mixed for me. It's a huge mix of business and personal. So if I'm scrolling there, I tend to get both, and I just recognize what I'm interacting with in my feed, and just keeping in mind what feels good to me. A lot of my client students have separate accounts. So they'll create a fake TikTok or a fake Instagram account just for friends and family, especially if you are a larger, well-known entity out in the world. They'll have a personal Instagram that they consume content for on a personal level. And it helps them also like create that line, because it's so easy to accidentally like see a DM and then switch into business mode when you don't want to be.
I like that idea of creating actual physical boundaries of like, this is my workspace, so I'm doing work, and then, oh, I'm in my personal life, so this is my personal social. Because I know we do sometimes have to share personal on our social to make us seem human and like we aren't robots that just do business all the time. So it's fun to share that kind of stuff.
Okay, wait, can I talk about that for a sec?
You sure can. You talk about anything you want.
I've been thinking a lot about this because I think there's a difference between transparency and authenticity. So, for example, I don't show my kid on social media. That's my personal boundary. I love seeing other people's kids. I just don't show mine. And I know for a fact, because she's so freaking cute, that I feel like she would go viral. Like if I shared her, y'all could not handle the level of cuteness. And I know that it would positively impact my image, so to speak. But I also I think that's the personal boundary. I think, we can decide how much of ourselves we want to show. And for me, it's like, I'm going to crack jokes. I'm going to talk about RuPaul's Drag Race. I'm going to talk about Schitt's Creek and the things that I like and relate it back to business. That's how I show up authentically, but I'm not going to show everything. There's family members that have hard lines about not being on social. I don't share them. I don't share my daughter, but I'll share my dog Gibson every single day. You know what I mean? And so I think I don't know if we have to share personal life pieces unless we want to.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I think it's if you're comfortable sharing it, then you can share it. But I think you have to decide what you feel comfortable with. And going back to boundaries and also mindfulness, I think mindfulness is easier when you have those boundaries and also have that intention of not sharing particular things, like having that hard line of like, I'm not sharing my kids. I'm not sharing my home. I'm not sharing XYZ. I think that makes it a lot easier for sure.
Yeah. And I think, so this leads me to another boundary, which is a time-based boundary. So this comes from seeing what everyone else is doing on social media and going, ooh, I want to do that too. One of these happens with posting every day. Okay, so we hear this from marketers. We see people posting every day, and we feel like we need to post every day. And then we sit down to write the post, and it takes us 5 freaking hours.
I know.
And we're fiddling around with Instagram Reels, and we're like, how do people do this every day? The answer is they're either spending their entire time on social media or they have a team.
Yep.
There's rarely an in-between. And so what I encourage my members, my students to do, especially if they're like solo shows, is instead of giving yourself, I'm going to post every day, give yourself, I'm going to spend this much time on this every day. And that shift can make it way more approachable. So maybe you spend one day writing a caption and the next day fiddling with Canva. And then on the third day, you actually post the thing. That great. You did it. You met your time requirements. You can check off that box in Asana. I love the little unicorn that celebrates with you.
It's so great.
It feels so good. And then we feel like we can accomplish it a lot easier. So when it comes to content creation, one of those boundaries I love is time-based versus giving yourself a posting limit to like meet for some reason.
Yes, I love the time-based thing. And also, one of the things I recommend to my business coaching clients is just doing an engagement hour or an engagement 30 minutes, because it's not just about posting. It's also about being active on the platform. So like send those DMs, like engage with people's stories, engage with people's posts, comment. So even if you're posting once or twice a week, lovely, good for you. That's amazing. But if you can do 30 minutes every day of engagement, like with a bunch of different accounts, like that's also going to give you that credit. So it's like the mindfulness of focusing on the activities that are actually helpful for your business instead of just like, it's what everyone else is doing, so I need to do it too.
Yeah. And that's like when you said putting the social back in social media again, I feel like that's the piece. That's a stumbling block is like people spend so much time creating content that they forget, oh, I have to like actually be out here meeting new people because that's really the magic of social media. But we get so almost burned out fiddling around in Canva that we don't even want to log back in again to another social media app. And so I love that you said that because responding to stories is one of my favorite ways to do this.
Same.
It feels
it's
like
fun.
Yeah. So I feel I'm I'm introverted. And I like talking to people, but I don't initiate. All of my friends friended me first. Okay. I don't initiate. So stories feels like an invitation to me to start a conversation. And so I feel like, oh, they started it. Now I can jump in, you know?
Yes, exactly. I actually am similar. Like I'm an introvert that's a little bit of an extrovert. And like I love social media for that aspect because you don't have to go out into the world. You don't have to drain your social battery. Like you can like be in your pajamas or drinking your coffee and you can like virtually network with a bunch of amazing people. And so it is really, really fun. I love it.
Yes, me too.
So we do have to do like a little bit of selling on social, which is a bummer. Do you have any strategies or any advice on making it mindful, or like, is there like a system that you feel like people can follow or like a formula?
Yeah. Selling can be challenging. And my members and students often fall into two categories. Either they feel comfortable selling all the time and they're not sure what else to post, or they're posting everything else. And the second they say, can you buy this thing? They like freeze up, right? And it happens to the best of us. So I think the thing to think about is I like to think about this as like a celebration. And for me, I'm celebrating the people that I'm helping. So for example, instead of saying, here's my thing, buy this, I'll say, oh, here's what someone else is doing. And I help them with that using this thing, right? So switching it from like, I'm asking for your money to like, oh, here's someone else that did this could be a really great like mindset shift there. Another thing that's super helpful for a lot of my members and clients is thinking of it more as an invitation instead of an ask. Okay, so I'm inviting you to take a look at this thing instead of, please, can you buy this? It's like a little bit of a different energy behind the post. And then the last thing that really, really helps people is storytelling. So you can use a often used storytelling device, like if a tree falls in the woods, does anyone hear it? We all know that one, right? Or you can use a third-party example from your own clients and customers' experiences. So I had a client today. We talked about this. Here's their challenge. I bet you're feeling this too. Here's the solution to that. Okay. So thinking more about it's like bringing a complexity to selling versus can you please buy this thing that I made? Which there is a place for that. Usually when you're announcing a new thing, you can just say, this is a new thing, buy it.
Right.
But over time, storytelling is what weaves together the needs of the people that we're trying to help and the offer that we're presenting to them.
I love that. Selling is such a scary thing for so many people, but it really is just, I love how you framed it as like it's an invitation to learn more, or it's an invitation to like join you in like helping them grow whatever they're doing. So it doesn't have to be we're going to put you in this class or a course today type of language, but it can just be like, are you having this problem? Like learn more about this and maybe it'll be a good fit for you.
Yes.
So for people who are overwhelmed, which is like everybody, I think I know. Do you have any way to simplify your social strategy? Like, is there a way to hone in on maybe certain types of social media or certain types of content, certain apps? Like, what do you recommend there when someone's looking to just streamline and maybe just simplify?
Yeah. I think overwhelm on social media comes from trying to do too much of the wrong thing. Okay. So too much of a good thing can still feel energizing, but too much of the wrong thing, like a poor fit strategy, is just draining. So for example, I'm a talker. I love talking. I love creating videos. If you ask me to write a post, it's going to take me all day. It's just not my thing, right? So I'm leaning into my natural tendency to create content, and that's where I thrive, right? One of my clients is a writer. If I ask her to record a video, she will take months to record a 30-second Instagram reel, right? It's not her thing. We're like, you know what? Writing's your thing. We're going to lean into writing. So we do carousel posts and, even text-based posts, things like that. So think about your preferences when it comes to creating content, your communication preferences, and start there. And then the second thing is we try to be on all the apps. And I know there's FOMO, especially with Instagram threads.
Oh, I know.
The FOMO is real. Don't try to be everywhere. Just pick one and have that be your main one. Spend 80% of your time there. And then if you want to dabble, 20% of your time can go somewhere else for business. That focus will help you reduce the overwhelm. So your preference in creating content, sticking with one platform, and then I've got to go back to the time-based parameters, both with creating content and building a community. So I love that you said 30 minutes a day. I teach the same thing. 30 minutes a day. I actually have it as a Asana task. Sometimes I'll put it in my Google Calendar. That's my time to do that. And then about an hour and a half a week creating content for me. That's what works for me. Find what works for you. Some people it's 30 minutes, some people it's 3 hours. That's what works for me so that I can keep doing it over time. And that reduces the overwhelm. The last bonus dessert of this is repurposing content. If I'm completely overwhelmed, oh my gosh, this happened to me when I was pregnant. I did not realize how much energy it takes to grow a human.
Oh, girl, you go from 100% capacity to 40 and your brain gets totally eaten by the baby.
Yes. Almost instant, month one, I was like, oh no, I thought I'd have 9 months to prepare. So I heavily leaned into repurposing. I have been doing this for almost 10 years now. So there's a lot of content. I took email content, turned that into carousel posts. I straight up reposted the exact same post again. Just really leaning into content repurposing if you're overwhelmed. Just take something you posted a year ago, post it again today, right? I think we don't do that enough because hopefully we're growing our audience this whole time. So the people a year ago, even if they were an audience member, may not have seen this post. They sure don't remember it. I don't remember a social media post I saw a year ago.
Oh, no, not
so
at all.
Repost it, friend. It's okay.
Oh, that is a good bonus one because I think that we remember everything we do, but the attention span on social is 5 seconds. They have no idea. And there is some value in repetition, repeating the same messaging over and over and over. I feel like people have to hear it 5 times, 10 times for them to have it stick in their brain. So having that repetition is actually a wonderful thing.
Yes, it's beautiful. It's like that little commercial jingle you can't get out of your head. It's not a bad thing. It just helps you remember it, right?
Yes, exactly. So I personally am just a massive fan of mindfulness in general, just offline and on. We definitely are super hard on ourselves and get into comparison mode. So there's one of my favorite sayings is comparison is the thief of joy. So do you have any advice for people to stop comparing themselves to everybody on social or just staying mindful of when social becomes toxic and not good for their mental health?
Yeah. I think it's so hard. First of all, it's hard because you're seeing everyone's highlight reel. You did not see the ugly cry in the shower that morning. Mm-hmm. Okay. So number one, it's challenging. So what I do, I don't know if this is great advice. You may need to talk to a therapist about this one. But what I do is people who I find myself comparing them to, I unfollow them, but I take their like Instagram handle or whatever, and I put it in my notes app. And so if I want to go check up on competitors, if I need to do research, I actually have to go and look to see it. Okay. It's not popping up in my feed. You can even mute people if you don't want them to see that you unfollowed them. That's fine. Mute them. I have a few people that I mute because I don't want them to think, I don't want them to know. I don't want them to know.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
So that's what helps me. Some people, delete Instagram off their phone over the weekends and add it back in. It's totally up to you. But I do think the mindfulness piece is key first. Recognizing the feelings in your body of anxiety, the emotions, your heart's beating faster, you're feeling your shoulders come up, you feel your internal dialogue go, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. Like just being aware that that's happening is the absolute first step. And then from there, you can start making a decision. Oh, okay, when I'm looking at this person's post, I'm thinking in my head, man, I'm not as good as this person. Should I do something about that? I think that is like a really good mindful moment to be just aware of the negative thoughts. I will say this too. I have a free meditation. It's called Social Media Unwind. It's on any podcasting app. The very first episode is a meditation that walks you through those feelings so you can start to recognize when they're coming up on social media. And so that could be a very helpful exercise to go through as well.
It's a helpful exercise for just being a human being. Like, I think that we've definitely conditioned ourselves, whether it's from our childhoods or just building up our tough skin, that we just ignore how we're feeling. And we just power through and keep hustling, keep grinding, whatever. But there is value in being mindful and feeling your feelings. And they're not good or bad, but they're your feelings. And I think that's probably, that's like more profound, but that's ultimate mindfulness, is really feeling what you're feeling and not being judgmental about it. I would love to end with any tech tools that you recommend for mindfulness. So obviously Do Not Disturb app, or Do Not Disturb on your phone. That setting is the best.
Yes. Honestly, it saves my butt so many times. So yeah, Do Not Disturb on the phone. I love scheduling posts. I'm not, even though I look like I'm on social media a lot, I'm not. So right now I'm using Metricool. I also recommend Later as well as two scheduling options. A lot of apps now have scheduling built into the app too, so check that out. Create your content in a batch. Don't think about it. And then let's see, tech tools. I use Airtable for content planning as well. And I've built out my own bank of, they're almost like quips.
Oh, cool.
So I save them in my Airtable base for those moments where I need to post something really quickly. I did this morning. I created a reel and I was like, I want to do something around productivity. So I just searched productivity and I was like, oh, I've said this already. Bloop, add it to the reel.
That's
so that
awesome.
can also be helpful tool. Is Airtable or Notion kind of like database where you save your things that you say all the time?
That's awesome. No, that's so smart, because then it plays into that repetition and it's just like your brand stuff. Like you have your little brand repository that you can always pull from.
Yes, exactly that. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. This was such a fun conversation. And I also think it will help everyone be more mindful about social, create more boundaries. How can people find you? Where can people get more information about your courses, learn more about you, follow you on social, drop all the infos?
Yes. So I'm at online Drea, online DREA, everywhere, but Instagram's my fave. Send me a voice note. I love to hear from you, or send me a little note that said you found me on this podcast. And then if you go to my website, onlinedrea.com, I have so many free resources. We have a podcast with over 250 episodes. We have our social media starter kit, which is really helpful as well to just set a framework for social media. And there's just so many goodies on the website. So you can check us out there, onlinedrea.com.
I have a question for you. Would you like to stop fighting about the dishes, the laundry, and everything else household related? Well then, ladies, I got something for you. I have my mini course, and it is called Creatively, I know, How to Stop Fighting About the Dishes. Also, did I mention that it is free? Check the show notes for the link, and hopefully it will help you stop fighting about the dishes. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Work Life Juggle. Your support means the world to me. So if you loved this episode, share it on social and tag me on Instagram at the.joyfulpreneur. I will choose one lucky winner per quarter to get a free one-on-one 1-hour coaching session with me where we can talk about fair play or your business. Until next time, stay joyful.